Good morning. Welcome to AUSA's Family Forum 2, Military Moves. My name is Patty Barron, and I'm AUSA's Director of Family Readiness. We had such a great forum yesterday discussing military spouse employment. Over 350 of you joined us. Thank you so much. I hope you learned as much as I did. If you missed it, no worries. All of our forums are on demand, so you can come back to AUSA now and watch the recording later on. Today, however, we turn our attention to military moves. It's no stretch of the imagination that this year's PCS moves have been extremely challenging. You've had to deal with delayed orders due to stop movement conditions, difficulties in finding a packing date months after you anticipated orders, and hoping and praying you were lucky enough to get a quality moving team. Our military kids have also had to deal with lots of challenges. They've had to deal with school abruptly ending of the in-person school year. Childcare centers have been closed. And as hard as it's been on the kids, I can probably tell you that it's been even harder on the parents. But it's been in part because of you and your participation in AUSA Family Forums that General James McConville made people his #1 priority. When it comes to Army families, General McConville has made 5 issues his key quality of life initiatives: childcare, military spouse employment, healthcare, housing, and PCS moves. Today, we will discuss military moves and its impact on families. Therefore, it's my honor to have assembled this panel of amazing experts. We have with us today Lieutenant General Douglas M. Gabram, Commanding General, U.S. Army Installation Management Command. Major General Michael Russell, Assistant Deputy Chief of Staff, U.S. Army G4. Dr. Becky Porter, President and CEO, Military Child Education Coalition, and Ms. Helen Rode-Darnell, Chief Child and Youth Services, United States Army G9. Lieutenant General Gabrams, would you begin our conversation, sir?
Hey, thanks, Patty. I appreciate it, and thanks to all our great panel members here today in AUSA. And as Patty just stated, 4 of these 5 Army initiatives, child care, spouse employment, housing, and PCS moves fall into our portfolio for execution at the tactical level, and that's our garrisons, our installations. The topic of this panel is military moves, but I think all of you would agree that housing, child care, spouse employment are all integral to the PCS move experience. So, as mentioned, all these efforts support the Army's Quality of Life Task Force and support the Army's Chief of Staff, a #1 priority, people first. And then to make it personal, my 36 years in the Army, 34, married to a great Army spouse, all 4 of these have been a big part of my life, and they're very personal to me. I have firsthand experience, some bad, some good, mostly good, and many repetitions working through these Army initiatives. So do we, the Army, have challenges in some of these areas? Absolutely we do. And if they were easy, we wouldn't be talking about them today. But we've made significant progress in this past year on all fronts. My old boss, General Perna, said, "I'll go anywhere you want to go as long as it's forward," and that's where we're going forward, and we're getting better every day. So PCS moves are stressful enough, as Patty mentioned, even with a, quote, perfect move or nothing going wrong. On all my 19 PCS moves, my goal was to stay married, simply. A little bit more to that. Then the challenges in 2020 with COVID. The good thing for us is we started a PCS move campaign last year in 2019, initiated by General Perna and now continued by General Daly, focused on 3 installations with high annual turnover, families making back-to-back moves within 12 months. Those were Bliss, Leavenworth, and Carlisle. The intent was to improve the PCS moves at those locations, learn the best practices, and then apply the lessons learned to across the Army. So we spearheaded this event with a bunch of great teammates across the Army. And this team, really, we established a clear understanding of the inseparable links in the PCS chain, from assignment instructions to orders to household goods pickup and delivery, to housing, clearing, and occupation, and the critical importance of child care and spouse employment, which we'll talk more about today. Then the enemy voted. COVID-19 hit us, which turned the PCS season completely upside down. What was an effort focused on 3 installations now became an Army holistic effort of moving Army families and single soldiers, trainees and permanent party, initial entry, really everybody across the Army overseas and in CONUS, and doing it safely oh, by the way, while maintaining quality of life and doing it right. So it sounds easy. And as briefly mentioned, as we all know, different health con protection levels across our garrisons and nation, stay-at-home orders, quarantines, exception to policies, PCS date changes, passport and visa delays, which the Army got after very quickly. But we did it as a team. The Army met the challenge and safely completed over 72,000 PCS moves in 2020. And we're not done yet, a testament to the strength and resilience of our Army soldiers and families. And General Russell is going to talk a little bit more about this. Let me quickly move to housing. A big part of our success through the latest PCS move season is really credited to the efforts of our RCI partners. I'm proud of our partners and what we've done. They've carried a weight and more through many challenges, like our recent Hurricane Laura hitting Polk, causing millions of dollars of damage, only to be followed by another hurricane just last weekend. Standing shoulder to shoulder with our RCI partner, they jumped in to help repairs and restore order safe and secure, and we're going to fix Fort Polk. So we've learned many best practices like joint inspection teams, well-defined standards, and more technical experts on the ground. And we've also reduced the between maintenance, between moves. This is significant because this is attributed to reducing PCS wait times, all dealing in a COVID environment, and we're still after our work orders, as many of you know. So this worked really well in the schoolhouses at Bliss, Leavenworth, and Carlisle, and our team already assembled to tackle the summer surge, adapted to the challenges of COVID, and over an extended 2020 cycle, we PCS'd 1,600 soldiers, and we sent over 1,200 to class. So we'll capitalize on many lessons learned this summer and consistently improve our action plan. And the RCI housing front, the Army and our RCI partners acknowledge that we still got work to do, but we're moving forward together and getting better every day. On the child care front, obviously it's near the top of the list for our military family concerns during PCS moves. Helen's going to go into this a little bit more in detail on a few child care initiatives. Part of the Army's People First campaign was to prioritize child care in the facility investment plan. And as a result, the Army is funding many CYS facility investment projects totaling over $500 million through 2030. This includes 10 new CDCs at our 10 garrisons with the greatest need for increased capability. Right now, today, we're 81% operational in CDCs. And through this pandemic, our child care providers have been on the front lines to keep facilities open for parents and to provide child care needs as we move down the HPCON ladder as we execute PCS moves. So they've earned our profound appreciation and certainly have my utmost respect. And if you have a chance to say thank you to some of these folks, please do. Remember, at the end of the day, our daycare is the gold standard of our nation. And last month, we implemented the revised child care priority policy changes, which will provide assistance to families arriving to a new duty station after a PCS move. The last topic is spouse employment, and this was covered yesterday in a great panel, but I just want to remind a few things to some folks. I think yesterday we highlighted many initiatives across DoD to include IMCOM's Army Community Services partnered with the Department of Labor to launch military spouse employment initiatives discussed in detail. So we also encourage military spouses to visit our MWR website to find employment opportunities as we connect spouses with opportunity. Also discussed yesterday by Mr. Max Weiss, the AMCG-1 was our expanded NAF civilian employment assignment tool and a renewed focus on home-based businesses. And it's come up yesterday, it's come up several times, and I want to reinforce that spouses can also apply up to $1,000 for costs related to relicense and or certification when relocating. This is hugely powerful. In summary, I want to make a plug to connect families and soldiers and civilians, our digital garrison mobile app. This is an Army effort, and it's a tool that everyone can be affiliated in the Army. It's a game changer for all, and it's especially useful for PCS moves. Almost 50,000 members of the Army community have downloaded and are now using the digital garrison app to connect with a full range of quality of life services in their installations. Soldiers can customize their app to choose any of the 62 Army garrisons currently covered. So you can download this app on your iPhone and Android. Just go to your app store or Google Play and search for a digital garrison now. It's a great tool. It's a great Army tool, and it connects people during PCS moves. Thanks for the opportunity to share some thoughts with you. I look forward to questions, and I'll be followed by Major General Russell from the Army G4.
Great. Thanks, Joe Gabriel. I appreciate it. And Patty Barron, I appreciate you moderating this session for us. Hey, just like Joe Gabriel just stated, our chief and secretary gave us a task last year. And as I sat before a lot of you on this forum and those of you who are joining for the first time, we made a lot of promises to you because we heard what you said. You wanted us to improve your household goods experience, period, bottom line. So we have done quite a bit to try to listen to what you asked for, implement change across the services in some cases because we had to get their concurrence with some of the things we wanted to accomplish, and we did it as best we could. So I'm going to go through several initiatives that are actually ongoing right now, things that we are trying to accomplish in the future, and a lot of what affects you in a COVID-19 environment. So first, let me just kick it off with how did we conduct the PCS moves this year in a COVID-19 environment? Well, first of all, we did several things up front. We started with health screening. We required all the moving companies to conduct health screening of their company personnel and also to provide our soldiers, DA civilians, and families written certification of the health screening before beginning any work in your residence. Number two, we developed what was called the Customer Reasonable Assurance Agreement, which ensured soldiers, civilians, and families that they also comply with CDC guidelines. The soldiers, civilians, they also should complete this agreement before your moving company personnel arrives so that you can show them that you are COVID-free, as well as them showing you that they are COVID-free through their health screening and through the Customer Reasonable Assurance Agreement. That's so that we can benefit each other inside your home environment. Also, we hold the moving crews to strict adherence to the Center for Disease Control COVID-19 health protocols while in your residence. They are required to wear face coverings, clean frequently touched surfaces like handrails, windows, things of that nature, maintain good hand hygiene, and also we ask them to minimize the number of personnel at your residence in order to meet social distancing requirements. So that is very important. And in addition to that, please make sure that you section off the things you do not want them to touch. You can set up a room, you can put it in the bathroom, you can put it in that one bedroom with a plain sign on it that says do not enter. That includes your pets, that includes other things that you just do not want exposed and or touched. Also, in conjunction with MCOM, the Army has set a goal for quality assurance inspectors to perform 100% on-site or virtually household good inspections. So these quality assurance inspectors are required to physically come to your location and or through virtual to make sure that you're getting the move that you deserve. And if there are issues, fix them on the spot. Also, we require safety and security guidelines that include mandatory background checks. That was very key. That was a very key issue actually at last year's AUSA about home invasions or the perception of a home invasion, specifically in Germany, was the example that was given. So what has happened now is that we required the TSPs, transportation service providers, to do mandatory background checks on their moving company employees that interact with Army families. And that's both on and off installation. So we hope that helps with the situation. But again, like I stated last year, if you have a problem, if you feel unsafe, stop the move. Call your ITO, call the MPs, do what you need to feel safe in your home environment, and the chain of command will do the rest. But we do require mandatory background checks to try to get after some of the issues we had last year. We also heard you when you said there's multiple information all over the place for information. So now we have an app, just like the installation does. It's called the Army PCS Move app. And that application is currently on Google Play Store and on the Apple App Store. To date, it has over 13,000 downloads. It is the official Army app all things PCS household goods. It is knowledge-based at present, but it will become interactive. And then our stretch goal is to make sure that you can do your whole entire move from that application. And we've also linked it to the Army claims. So our Army claims, working from the OT JAG, our Judge Advocate General, has put a instructional video online right now that provides tips on how to avoid loss, damage, and the supporting documentation that you need to initiate a claim. And this is in detailed, and it has the steps to file a claim. The first video was posted on 24 August, and what I would ask you to do is go to that Army PCS Move app, download it. It's free, and read it. It will help you immensely. And it's also linked to the instructional app from Claims. We are also going to connect it to the installation app as well. So you will have pretty much a one-stop shop. In addition to that, the Army Relocation Advisory Committee. We listened, we heard, and now we have a chartered organization that comes together, and we look at all the things that are currently ongoing in the household goods arena. And we take all those issues and we try to resolve them in that session, or we take it for action to come back with solutions. In addition to that, we've added 3 spouses to that Army Relocation Advisory Committee so that we can get input directly from our families in terms of what they're seeing out there on the ground. So we've had several sessions already. We've already acted on things that's come through that session to us. And then what it does, if there's something that the service, your Army, can't fix on their own, and we have to send it up to Transportation Command, who owns the overall transportation service provider contract, we take it to them during their sessions, and then we work collaboratively together to fix whatever problems we have. And then as I kind of whittle down, claims was a big part of last year's session, and so we've done a lot to whittle down on claims. Specifically, we allow our soldiers, families, and civilians to notify moving companies of loss and damage, and we've increased that time from 75 days to 180 days. I know that will be very beneficial because 75 days goes extremely fast when you're trying to unpack. 180 days makes more sense because you just don't get to everything in those 75 days. So now you have 180 days to notify the moving company of loss and damage. We also have hired 3 of 6 claims advisors that are designated at Army shipping offices. What they do is these advisors review all unsettled household goods claims greater than 60 government business days from the claim submission date, and then they try to rectify those claims, specifically directed and individually. And this will help benefit our community in terms of just getting lost in the claims process and burning numerous days on trying to get things fixed. We've also simplified the inconvenience claim, which gives you, which requires the moving companies to pay a flat rate reimbursement based on a per diem. That's meals and incidentals. And they're capped at 7 days for failure to pick up what they agreed to pick up at your residence. So that is a big improvement as well. And then finally, the personally procured move, which used to be called the Diddy moves. We've now gotten that on the books. So instead of being reversed at 95% of the government costs, you are now reimbursed at 100% of the government costs, which is a vast improvement. And we've had a lot of soldiers and family members take advantage of that. That also helps you minimize your exposure to potential COVID-19 issues. And then finally, the household good weight allowance. You asked us to take a look at the weight allowances or the weights authorized for specific ranks and grades to move at. For example, if an E5 is authorized to move 9,000 pounds and then they have 10,000 pounds, that 1,000 pound excess they were normally billed for. So we did that. We did a cost benefit analysis. We identified where the problems were inside of that process with the weights. And now we are working with the other services to try to increase the weights across the board so that we give some relief to all ranks and grades, not just a specific portion officers, NCOs enlisted, but everybody across the force. That is ongoing, and we hope to have something out before the next summer's move cycle. So I'm going to stop there, but those are just some of the things that we listened to and some of the things we instituted on your behalf. So following me now will be Dr. Becky Porter. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, General Russell, and thank you, Patty and AUSA, for hosting this forum this morning. While so far we've talked about PCS moves and the focus has been on logistics and the major muscle moves associated with PCSing, families with school-age children know that there's another equally important issue that they face, and it's school transitions. The challenges of knowing which school to put your child in or how to translate their credits from their previous school, or even how to ensure continuity of your child's IEP are all exacerbated by COVID. That's why MSEC has collaborated with several other service organizations to identify various solutions and has devoted space on our website to assist parents. We want to assist students, educators, parents all during this time. Our Navigating Change section includes archived parent webinars, recommendations from our work with the COVID Military Support Initiative, and a toolkit that we put together with Columbia University's Center for Public Research and Leadership. I think if I only had time to make 2 recommendations for parents and educators during this presentation, and that might be all I have, I would encourage adults to ensure that children have routine in their daily lives. That would be one recommendation. Just making sure that they get up at the time that they normally would for school and get dressed and brush their teeth and eat before they even start, even if they're in a virtual school environment. The second recommendation I would make for educators and for parents and also even for students is to be looking out for each other and making sure that they don't feel isolated. That the impact that this environment can have on our mental health and just on feeling connected to others is really significant. To the extent that we can keep our children engaged in a routine and connecting them in a safe way with peers and activities, I believe we can mitigate some of the adverse effects of COVID. In fact, MSEC just released, I think yesterday, the findings of our Milk Kids Now survey. We collected that data from between February and May of this year, and we found that fitting in and making new friends were among the most significant challenges for students. That sort of emotional stressor or being able to address it can really provide the necessary foundation and the environment for a child to thrive. Fortunately for parents and students, there's a way for them to tell at a glance if a school is military friendly and makes these sorts of concerns or takes these sorts of concerns into consideration. It's the Purple Star School Designation Program. That is a grassroots initiative that is implemented sometimes at the state level, sometimes at the school district level, or even at the individual campus level. It's a process that's growing as a way for schools to demonstrate that they are military friendly. Elements that, that schools might include in this include a campus liaison for military families and students. And it's different from a school liaison officer who's a valuable resource at the installation level. But these campus liaisons would be at individual school levels and can help, can work with the school liaison officers and can help with the students and their parents in getting them adjusted to a new school. Another element that might be included in a Purple Star School designation is a professional development program for the staff and faculty to educate them on specific military-related issues that kids coming in PCSing might be affected by. Another element that could be included is military student sponsorship programs, like the MSEC Student to Student or other programs that are out there available to help welcome military students to a school. Currently, there are 10 states that have a Purple Star School designation program, and we're advocating with more states to do the same. I think if you go to my next slide, you'll see that there are some resources available. Yeah, there it is. Resources available on our website. The Navigating Change portion of the website is specifically for COVID-related resources. We also have a toolkit that I mentioned in our collaboration with Columbia University. And then, of course, SchoolQuest is a tool that USAA has helped us stand up to facilitate parents making transitions for their students. It's an online resource. I think the other thing I would say just in closing is that clearly COVID has exacerbated just all of the challenges that military families face, whether it's just in getting their stuff ready for a move, or when they get to the new location, sending their kids out to try to, or not sending their kids out to make new friends. And organizations like MSEC and others are available to help. One other thing I would say, and I recognize that kind of what General Russell mentioned, is that families can get overwhelmed right now with all of the resources that are available. And MSEC has people that you can talk to if you need help sorting through those resources. And you can go on our website and look for the Ask Aunt Peggy or MSTC online resource, and we're happy to provide you with some assistance. So I'll stand ready for your questions. I really appreciate the opportunity to help you sort through some of the school transition issues that your children may be facing right now. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Radarmo.
Thank you, Becky, and thank you, Patty, for the opportunity to share with our audience all of the great initiatives that are in place to increase our access to our child care programs. You know, the Army serves about 200,000 children and youth each year in our programs, both on the installation and off the installation. As General Gabriel noted, providing quality child care is both a readiness issue and a retention issue. And difficulty in obtaining child care creates conflict between parental obligations and mission requirements, and may affect a soldier's and a spouse's career options and ultimately their decision to remain in the Army. As General Gabriel stated as well, our leaders really recognize that the impact that child care has on our missions, and have made increasing quality child care and access to it a line of effort in our quality of life working group. Lieutenant General Gabriel already addressed the facility initiatives that are in place to increase child care capacity and to sustain our existing facilities. And I'm going to address some initiatives that are program related and that are already in place. On the 1st of September, the Army implemented the Secretary of Defense's changes in child care priorities. The new priorities offer service members first access to child care programs over other users. The Department of Defense online request for care system, militarychildcare.com, was updated as well on the 1st of September to reflect these changes. In our new policy, families are placed in a defined order within each priority group. For example, within Priority 1, spaces are offered first to single military and then dual military families, followed by military members with a working spouse or spouse seeking employment, and finally, a spouse attending school. Families whose anticipated placement time is within 45 days of their requested date of care needed must be offered an available space before a patron from any lower category can be offered care. Additionally, the revised policy allows for patrons in a lower category to be supplanted by a patron in a higher category. Children of single and dual military and military with a full-time working spouse cannot be supplanted. Additionally, children in family child care homes and using our Army Fee Assistance Program may also not be supplanted. The Army's transition to these new policies has been successful, and we do expect to have an increase in the number of military families in our programs. You know, right now there are 159 family child care providers that are open and providing care, and this is a decrease from the 180 that were operating before our COVID crisis. The Army's goal is to increase the number of family child care providers to 275 by the end of September 2021. Family child care is an excellent spouse employment opportunity for aspiring spouse entrepreneurs who love children and have a desire to help their military families. Family child care startup costs and business risks are low compared to other businesses, while the opportunities for monetary and emotional rewards are high, especially due to the fact that the Army provides considerable direct and indirect subsidies to minimize expenses and maximize income. Some examples of the incentives that are provided include paid risk insurance, a lending library with items like fire extinguishers and finger guards, toys, and other developmentally appropriate equipment, paid training, and application fees to achieve a Child Development Associate credential. Family child care providers receive a direct incentive for other operating special category homes, such as infant toddler, special needs, or recently hourly child care homes. A family child care provider can receive a $1,000 incentive bonus when transferring from one location to a new location if they open up their family child care home at that new location. Parents can also receive can also receive USDA reimbursement for their food expenses. Now, I'm sure that if you ask any FCC provider, you'll find that the relationships that they build with the families and children in their care are the most rewarding outcome of being a family child care provider. Military Child Care in Your Neighborhood is the Department of Defense program that augments installation child care programs by recruiting accredited civilian child care providers to open their doors to military families. Each service has their own fee assistance program to buy down the more expensive cost of this civilian child care. Last year, over 19,000 active and reserve component children participated in the Army's fee assistance program. Over 5,000 civilian child care providers were eligible and offered their services to our Army families. The Army's fee assistance allows families to pay child care fees that are comparable to those on the installation and not the higher cost of the actual civilian child care. Currently, the Army is participating in a DoD pilot initiative in Maryland and Virginia called Military Child Care in Your Neighborhood Plus, which provides incentives for these local civilian providers to meet the accreditation requirements in order to qualify to participate in fee assistance. The pilot, if successful, will be expanded to include states where there are also long military waiting lists. COVID-19 has had an impact on the number of civilian child care providers participating in the Army Fee Assistance Program. The Army is working with Child Care Aware of America to monitor this situation to ensure the continuation of this very valuable and important child care option for our families. The Army's child care response to COVID-19 has been extensive. And as General Gabram implied, these child care workers really were on the front line of fighting this COVID and really stepped forward and supported all of our mission essential personnel. Our local commanders, in consultation with their public health officials, determined their child care availability in accordance with the local health protection conditions guidance. At our most restrictive point, in mid-April, only 43 CDCs and school-age programs across the Army were providing care for mission essential personnel. Child care fees were suspended and child care spaces were secured for families and amid conditions allowed for their return to work or a change in their work status. As General Gabram said, child care programs are reopening, and they're reopening in accordance with guidance that's kind of in reverse to the conditions with which they closed down their programs initially. Attendance is incrementally expanding to accommodate all of our Priority 1 families. All of the CDCs and school-age programs are open to accommodate both mission essential and additional populations, with the exception of those CDCs that are closed for renovation or repair or temporarily closed due to a positive COVID diagnosis. As General Gabram said, that means about 81% of our programs are ready and operational. Our CYS programs are now working diligently to safely return staff and children to their childcare programs. And in a few locations, the return of children to care has been impacted by the availability of childcare staff. For most locations, the parents' decision to return to childcare is impacted by their concerns of COVID-19 exposure, the ability to telework, virtual school attendance, and uncertainty about their own personal work status. But rest assured, the child and youth programs are moving forward as quickly as possible under difficult and often fluid circumstances. Garrison commanders have the authority to place children in care under emergency or mission-critical situations and to provide hardship fee waivers for families experiencing financial difficulties. Now that's just a quick rundown of our initiatives and our current status in COVID. I'd like to echo General Gabram's request to please, if you have the opportunity, take the time to thank the childcare staff for all of their efforts in keeping our programs and your children safe and providing the peace of mind that you need to return to the workplace. Patty, thank you for this opportunity, and I'll turn this back over to you.
Thank you so much, Helen. We have about 24 minutes for a Q&A, and we'll try to get in as many questions as we can. I believe, General Russell, this one might be yours, the first question. Many families are waiting 3 to 4 months to be reimbursed after paying out of pocket for a PPM move. What should families expect as far as how long it should take, and who can they call for help?
Well, Patty, thank you for that question. So first, let me say that's too long. I won't even cut any words or mince any words on that. It's too long. So what we're doing right now is we're working with DFAS, Defense Finance Accounting Service, and again, that is a DoD entity because they provide financial services to all of us. So we are currently working with them to try to reduce that amount of time. I won't tell you what makes sense to me, but I will tell you what makes sense to me is there shouldn't be more than a 30-day turnaround. I mean, everything is automated. So if you submit the paperwork and it's all, in accordance with the requirement, and I don't see why it would take more than a 30-day turnaround. So your service, we're going to push for that. And we're working with the appropriate agencies to reduce a 4-month, 3-month time down to, I would say, 30 days at the most. Makes sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I know our audience is very happy to hear that. 30 days would be great. General Gabram, the next question is for you, sir. Last year, Army leaders said that they had taken their eye off the ball as it pertains to oversight of privatized housing. What has changed? What have the Army and RCI housing partners done to resolve the widespread housing issues?
So thanks, Patty. That's a great question. And right up front, I will tell you, much has changed. And, this is it's a great question. So the Army, we did let our eye off the ball, and so did the partners, and we share this problem together. Obviously, back then, General Perna spearheaded the effort on this, and he refocused AMC and IMCOM and our RCI partners on this issue. It all started, and I'm not going to go through the litany of the checklist of things that we've done because trust needs to be validated and verified and earned. And I know we don't have it 100% across the board, but we are striving for that every day. So I will tell the audience that we've been having at the 4-star level and now at the 3-star level a weekly meeting with our RCI, with our garrison commanders. First off, for about 9 months to go and talk over each displaced family in the Army. Just think about that. There's 87,184 privatized houses in the United States Army. And today we have 62 displaced families, and 30% of that is pre-planned, which is good. That means we're fixing things. So we go over family by family, and then we brought our ICI partners into this meeting, and we have a joint meeting every Monday at $1,400 with our partners to talk about not only displaced families, work order status, the budget, how we're moving forward in development, et cetera. So we have the right metrics in place to move forward and to get better every day. So I'm excited about where we're at with our 7 RCI partners, the trust that we have, and the exciting future and where we're moving forward. So that's, again, I don't want to go into a long checklist, but those are just some of the things that we've done, and we're in a completely different place today. Over.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that answer. Dr. Porter, this next question is for you, ma'am. What are some trusted online resources that are available and free to military children to help them adapt and keep up when they change schools and throughout the school year?
Thank you for that question, Patty. There are several out there, and some of the ones that MSEC has worked with include tutor.com, as well as Khan Academy. And those are 2 resources that are really great for helping your child to keep up academically. There are others like Sesame Street for military families and a website called Bloom, Empowering the Military Teen. I think I could go on, but what would probably be most helpful to the folks who are listening today is if we provide that list to you for dissemination. The other thing that we can do is post it on our website under AUSA. But things like Kids Health, Scholastic Learn at Home for Families, Read, Write, Think, National Geographic Kids. There are so many, but I think when I consider academic adjustment and really making sure that your child is ready for what's coming academically, I would say tutor.com and Khan Academy. It's KHAN. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We will also make sure we post those resources so that families can have access to them. Thank you. General Russell, I think General Russell, I think this next one is for you. It's probably a very popular question. How close are we in approving more than 1 car for a PCS move?
Patty, thanks. I appreciate that. So I can understand why and where that question is coming from, because I too have shipped 1 car and then had to buy another one when I got there. So we are not where we should be in terms of me being able to tell you today that it's something that we can execute tomorrow. However, we are aware of it and we have taken it on for action, and we will continue to work that. I want to be as transparent as I can be with the audience. That's something that would probably take a legislative change or something along those lines with the current regulations to move another car, because it's tied to funding and things of that nature. So I will stop there, but we have taken it for action and we will continue to work that.
Thank you, sir. You might notice, the audience might notice that on the chat portion of this, the resources that Dr. Porter mentioned are listed there. And Sir General Russell, thank you. And we've actually got another great question for you. This one is near and dear to many of our hearts, and it's about Army pets, if you will, part of our families. For soldiers and Army employees with pets, those pets are important members of the family. What can our Army do to ease the challenges and costs for, shipping pets, particularly during long delivery and times? And I apologize that I can't read that question very well.
Thanks again, Patty. You're right. That is a sensitive issue to our service members. We just recently had to say goodbye to our 20-year-old Burma cat. So I understand what it feels like. We thought we lost a child. But anyway, what I would tell you is there is activity on trying to resolve this. And understanding, how pets are an integral part of the family. You grow up with them, and they're your best friend. And if you have a cat, you become their service staff. But what I would tell you is this: it is a legislative change that would be required in order to include pets as personal property. And we're trying to get them recategorized as personal property. And then if that in fact does pass at the OSD level, then it will be hopefully approved in the next NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, for 2022. So it is not something that your service can do on its own. It's something that has to go through a legislative process. And if that does occur, then it comes back to the services through the Transportation Allowance Committee, where we can make the decision on whether or not we want to fund pets as personal property. And then if so, we will ask for the change to be made in the Joint Travel Regulation, and then that benefit or entitlement will be made available to the force. But right now we have a ways to go. But I just want everybody to know that it has been taken. That activity has been taken on, and we're just trying to work it through the legislative process. So more to follow. Thank you for that very good question.
Thanks, sir. Ms. Radarmal, we have a question about CDCs. How are CDCs competing with off-post child care centers as it relates to increased pay and benefits for their employees to ensure retention?
Hi, Patty. Again, great question. Recruiting and retaining high quality staff is really one of our main priorities for our child care programs. Over the past 3 years, we've increased compensation for our direct care staff and have plans for the next few years to raise that compensation. On average, the off-post child care provider starts at about $10 an hour. In the Army, that's several dollars higher, but is dependent upon geographic location. And I think as far as compensation is concerned, we are one of the leaders in the child care community. And as I said, we will continue down that path and are evaluating our compensation now and should see again an increase over the next several years.
Thank you, Helen. General Graveram, this one is for you, sir. When should we expect the last 3 housing T-board provisions to be implemented? Are the PPV investors holding up to their implementation?
Yeah, so I don't have a specific answer to that question. I hate to say it's working, but that's exactly what it is. It's at OSD level, and we're tracking the 3 issues that are in question on this side, on the Army side, and working with our RCI partners. So I can get you more a definitive answer, but for right now, I'm going to have to pass on that one to give you, by the end of X date or X month. Over.
Thank you, sir. As you know, housing is something that so many of our families are very happy to receive, and also when they have some issues with them, it's always great to know where they can turn and how things are being worked on their behalf. So thank you for that. This next question is about PCS moves, but it's very, very hard to read. So I'm going to give it my best shot. For PCS moves, I'm sorry, it's really hard to read. Sir, can you read it from your screen?
Let me give it a shot, Patty. Thanks. Let's see. What I believe they're trying to ask, here it is. Nope. It actually moved up from my screen, so I apologize. But luckily, I did read it before it did move up.
Here, I think I have it now,
I got
sir.
it. Oh, I got it.
Okay.
In regards to PCS moves, after going through this pandemic timeframe, what are some lessons learned during the stop move time that can be used to improve the process moving forward? Do we expect the exception to policy procedure to become the standard norm? Okay, yeah. So if I understand that question, the exception to policy, that was an Army policy in order to manage our personnel, because we went from, if you recall, from no movement in the Army, period, for several months to where we had to restart that process. And so the ETPs allowed the Army to meter and monitor our folks out into the world, because remember, we're a global organization, and control their potential exposure to include their families by controlling who moves, when they move, and to make sure that all the process and procedures to protect you from COVID-19 exposure were in place before we executed a move. So will that come back? Well, the Army G1 recommends that to the senior leaders. So I won't speak for them, but could it come back? It depends on it's a condition-based requirement. It worked for us then, so we would have to see where we would need to go if we needed it again later. The first part of that question, lessons learned. I could go on in a separate town hall with lessons learned, but what I will tell you is this. One thing we did figure out, is probably a flash of the obvious, but PCS moves is a readiness enabler, right? We have to get our force, our families, our DA civilians from point A to point B as safely as possible, because the Army is an institution of people, just like the Chief's people philosophy. And what we discovered is, as we try to improve the household goods experience, it's not something that should be looked upon as we just need it, or folks are just being demanding, or what have you. No, it's things that we deserve. It's things that you've earned. It's things that you sacrifice for, that we have to provide for you in order to at the end game continue to produce readiness for our Army. And we are the readiness. It's all of us. And that's one of the main lessons learned that came out of this. Now, all the other things of how we're doing that, and all the eaches of that, that's numerous, and that may be for a different forum. But that for me, that's my takeaway. We are the end state of readiness, and household goods and the PCS move process facilitates that. Thank you.
Hey, can I just, Patty, if you don't mind, just kind of caveat or add to General Russell? That's a great answer on the ETPs, and just so the exception of policies, I know everybody understands that, but the health protection HPCon levels are significant. Senior commanders drive that decision based on the local conditions of all over the country. So today, for example, we have 50 garrisons at HPCon Bravo and 20 at HPCon Charlie, and those based on your HPCon level, that drives many actions, not only to child care, but all how we operate our essential services. So it's linked to PCS moves, but also on I think of part of this question, and thanks to HRC, I got to give a shout out to Mayor General Callaway, is we've streamlined our orders process during a COVID environment, because the goal is to provide it 120 days prior to PCS. That was the Bliss, Carlisle, and Leavenworth goal. Now we got a ways to go, but we learned a lot, right, in terms of lessons learned on how to get there to help us for next year. So, and also I think what's important here in the lessons learned category is the virtual lessons that we've learned. Some of the enduring virtual applications, we're going to probably continue because they make sense. Even if we go back to what the new normal would be, back to HPCon Alpha. So I think that there's a lot to unpack here on this question, but it's a very good conversation. Over.
Thank you so much, sir. So we have about 5 minutes or so left, and what I'd like to do is just give each one of the panelists an opportunity to either say something that they've been wanting to say and I haven't asked, or to make some final remarks. And General Gabriel, we'll go ahead and start with you, sir.
Yeah, Patty, first off, great job as the moderator, and I'd like to thank the panel. I think we've all learned a lot together, and I want to say, in the topics that we've covered in military moves, and the components to that, which is the Chief's initiatives on people first and our quality of life. We've in the whole portfolio, the whole team, from I&E to G9 to AMC to IMCOM to all the folks on the net here, have really put all oars in the water on this. And I know, like I stated before, I know we have some issues. But just kind of all of us watching this over many years, we're in a really good position, and we should be proud, and we should tell the good stories, and we should hunt the good stuff on all the things that we've done in terms of spouse employment and child care, and especially housing, and where the Army's going. So I'm really proud to be a part of it, and I thank this panel and thank AUSA for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. General Russell?
Thanks, Patty. And I echo General Gabriel to the panel members and to all the teammates out there across the Army, and to include U.S. Transcom. We have tried to make, as the chief told me, like day zero when I arrived, improve the household goods experience. And all of us have tried to do that. And then when I say all, I mean the force as well. You've given us feedback. You've been very vocal. You've been very forthright and very transparent with what you need. And we've listened, and we've tried to do that. And I'll just add a few more things to what we hope you will see in the future to try to get after even more improvements, because we are not satisfied, first of all. I don't want you to think we're running around in the Pentagon doing high fives and bumping chests saying we're done. We know we're not. And we will continue to improve with things such as with the Army PCS app. We're trying to add a chat feature. The Sergeant Major of the Army, Sergeant Major Grinston, said, hey, why can't we have some real-time discussion between folks in their homes trying to do a move and they have an issue? So we're working that as well, a chat feature. Also, better communication between the TSP, the providers, and yourself in terms of understanding where your property is along the move, being notified, being kept up to date through emails and et cetera, along your move process. Claims enhancements. Transcom increased the minimum coverage from $5,000 up to $7,500 for small shipments. So again, working with them as partners in all this, we've made significant improvements. So I will end there, but I'll summarize with this. Please download the Army PCS Move app. You can go there for reference. You can refer to all the things we talked about, and you can improve your own knowledge. And as I stated a year ago, take back control of your move. It's your move. We will help you enable it. We will listen. We will act. But take back your own move through knowledge. The PCS Move app. And Patty, thanks again for allowing me to speak to our great, wonderful force.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Porter.
Thank you, Patty. You know, I want to thank you. I want to thank AUSA and the other panel members here today, because it would be so easy in this environment for our military connected children to be kind of not left behind, but really considered as an afterthought. And this forum, I think, really provides an opportunity for MSEC and our partners like Barry Robinson and Military One Source and all the others that we mentioned, provides us an opportunity to elevate our military connected kids and their needs in this environment, especially around PCS moves. So thank you for the opportunity, and I hope we answered all your questions.
Thank you, ma'am. And you're absolutely right. I think that next year we definitely have to feature our military kids even a bit more. And Helen, Ms. Radarmal, you'll get the last word, and then I'll go ahead and close.
Well, thank you, Patty. And I will just make this short and sweet. Again, too, I'd like to thank you for allowing me the privilege to participate with this great panel. And if I have one closing thought, if anyone ever thought that there was not a connection between readiness and childcare, I think that the response by the great folks on the ground and at the garrison has proven that childcare is an integral part of readiness. And all I want to say is just thanks for all those people on the ground who have really shown their mettle through this very challenging time. Thanks, Patty.
Yeah. Thank you, Helen. I would say amen to that for sure. We've run out of time. Thank you all so much for being on the panel. You were wonderful. We could have stayed here for another hour, but make sure that the audience tunes back in at noon so that we can celebrate the Army family, the Marshall Award winner, and then also come back at 2 o'clock for the Army Senior Leaders Town Hall, where we'll have the opportunity to ask more questions. Thank you to all of you, and this is it for now. Bye-bye.